Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are in this world, wherever you're watching, from wherever you're watching. Today being October the 28th, 2025, and all day today is Tuesday. So I trust that you would have had a good day. And today we are going to be dealing with the politics of vaccination, increase of salaries, and other things. So it's the politics of that we are dealing with. We thank God for spared mercies as we continue to deliberate on those topics, on those areas of the particular topic that we have chosen today. My name is Doris. I am the leader designate for the National Liberation Movement of St. Vincent and Grenadines, and we are coming to you live and direct from the Caribbean island, this Caribbean island. There's another Caribbean island that is under hurricane. Well, it's more than warnings. The hurricane has arrived, I am thinking. I am in touch with one or two students who are at the University of the West Indies, and I pray that the entire island will be spared from the ravages of this hurricane. We would have had a similar encounter with Hurricane Beryl some years ago, and we're still recovering from the impact of this natural disaster, or the natural disaster that occurred as a result of the Hurricane Beryl at that time. So our prayers and thoughts are with those in Jamaica and other countries nearby that appear to be in the direct line of fire, so to speak. So we thank you for those who have taken the time to deliberate with us today and share the live. This is National Liberation Movement and You. So it's NLM and You. We thank those of us who have joined us, and we now have Mrs. Hodge, one of our partners, who is with us this evening. Thank you very much for logging on. The politics of vaccination, politics of the increase of salaries, and so on. It's quite troubling. But hear what the narrative says when it speaks about politics. Politics, it says, is a set of activities that are associated with making decisions in groups or other forms of power relations among individuals, such as the distribution of status or resources. So that's a general thought. Bear that in mind as we continue. Partisan politics is another story. We talk about governance for the people by the people, and drawn from or borrowed from broad definitions, we recognize that governance comprises or encompasses a system or the system by which an organization is controlled, by which that organization operates, and the mechanisms which it and its people are held to account. One of the things that is drawn, one of the values that's drawn from us is that you'd hear us talk about accountability and so on. The narrative goes on to say ethics, risk management, compliance, and administration are among the major elements of governance. So you have governance by the people, for the people, by the people. So we are within this particular system, this organization that is called the National Liberation Movement, which is focused on liberation, freeing our minds, so to speak, from a state of being fixed to a state where is one that is productive and active and progressive. That whole body of thought, governance, encompasses a system by which the national liberation movement is controlled and operates, and the various mechanisms by which the national liberation movement and its people are held to account. Ethics, risk management, compliance, administration, these are major elements of that whole system of governance for the people, by the people. So here is the thing. Good evening, good afternoon, greetings to all our listeners, as Mrs. John Hodge has said. Here is the thing. Should we blame an administration for forcing its citizens to take a particular vaccine? And in this case, the relevance of the COVID-19 vaccine is what we are actually looking at. But we must never forget, even if we don't blame it, even if we don't blame the administration, we must question a number of things. Okay, and Mrs. Hodge is saying I'm able and be able to talk outside the box. Okay. All right. That thought will develop as we go for the next hour and a few minutes. Should we blame the administration for forcing St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the citizens in this country, to take the COVID-19 vaccine? And why should we blame? Why should we blame the administration? Is this a case of politics of vaccination? You tell me. So, brothers and sisters, having said that, we must never forget the hardships that resulted from the dismissal of teachers and police and nurses and others in our country. We must never forget that. We would have seen and heard a number of them talk about what it is that they had to do in order to survive. Were you directly affected? I was, and still is, a retired civil servant. And so the direct impact of the COVID-19 vaccine, the fallout from that, so to speak, did not affect me directly, but not because it didn't affect me directly, that I should sit on my porch and smoke my proverbial pipe. Right? I don't smoke, but you know what I mean, and consider nothing, so to speak. I had to look at the sum total of this thing. What is it? What is it all about? I did the research and I came up with a number of things. At the time, we also had a radio program and we talked about the positives or the advantages and disadvantages of this COVID-19 vaccine. Who is responsible for 3% of the deaths of teachers in this country? Allegedly, those teachers were somehow affected by the COVID-19 vaccination program that was rolled out throughout the entire country. We had both the opposition party and the current administration that is led by the ruling party, that is led by the government of the day, that is led by one of the other parties. And the issue is that both leaders encouraged persons to take the vaccine. And we have all sorts of multiplication of ideas, suppositions, rumors, and all of that with respect to post-COVID-19. But approximately 2,000 teachers in this country are employed nationwide. This is reliable information, reliable statistics I got from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And 60 of those persons died to date. 35 of them were young teachers, young teachers. So roughly 3% of our current teaching population, teachers, the teachers of this country across secondary and primary school, secondary and primary schools, 3% of the deaths in this country are teachers. Did they have some underlying issue? Were they forced? Did they somehow were contributorily negligent? Can we say that? If we say that, why? What are the factors that would sort of lead us to believe that somehow they were forced? Nobody put a gun to their head. Well, I don't know. But it does not appear as if anyone took a gun to their heads. But the population of St. Vincent and Grenadines in churches, the teaching profession, the nursing profession, all workers, private sector, public sector, they were led to believe that this particular injection was for our own good. Will they fall out from all of this? Because close to 30,000 people were directly affected, or even more. Will it matter in the upcoming general elections? A general election, would it matter? Would that be a decision? I heard, or read rather, Peter Wickham's article when it says that in Barbados, people just willingly went along. But here in St. Vincent, there has been this sort of, discussion, this sort of up and down. People start to look at political parties differently and wondering, well, okay, what is in it for then? So will it matter in the upcoming general election? Will people remember, as I'm seeing many of my friends who suffered, because I was once a teacher, many of my friends who suffered, and they say, once a teacher, always a teacher. Here is it, that we would have had a number of persons, when I say suffer in the sense that they were forced to leave their jobs. And I'll tell you why I say forced. I was on the demonstration lines, standing up in support of many of our teachers. And they claim that they were forced to leave their jobs. Will anyone remember how many teachers died? And if so, could the government of the day be held responsible for their deaths through a COVID-19 vaccine mandate? That is as clear as we could go. We're not blaming anybody, we're just asking questions. But what was the outcome of this famous case? The High Court ruling was overturned. Remember, we had the appeal. The dismissals were upheld and no damages were awarded to the respondents. But there was a dissenting judge, acting Justice of Appeal, Wallbank. He said that the appeal should have been dismissed. And I know we're going over a little ground here, but we have to. Because if we don't know where we have come from, then most certainly we don't know where we are, nor where are we going. There was a Rule 8, a point about Rule 8. Rule 8 was that unlawfully changed the definition of abandonment of office. The dissenting voice of a judge is also critical to the understanding of what we are dealing with. The term, so Justice of Appeal acting, Wallbank. You see, the term absent without leave was expanded artificially. In other words, it was just expanded to include unvaccinated employees. And this disregarded common law practices, that is, the law that was common to all men. This disregarded common law practice of what constitutes job abandonment. That was one of the things that the judge was arguing about. Dismissals violated natural justice, he also said, that the respondents were never given a chance to justify their refusal to vaccinate before being removed. You would have had teachers coming on to the premises or attempting to go on to certain premises in certain schools, and they were told that they were not allowed. Then we had the issue of the decision-making process was flawed because authorities assumed that all non-vaccinated employees had no reasonable excuse. So it violated natural justice. After all, why say to me that, look, the assumption is that all of you who are non-vaccinated, you had no reasonable grounds no reasonable excuse to say you don't want to take the vaccine. Then there was a constitutional violations where pension rights and property deprivation, those were violations of persons' constitutional rights. So the dismissals resulted in loss of persons' pensions. You would have had the teachers speaking to me, and they were saying that they would have done 33 years and more, 33 and a third years. And some persons died in certain areas with more than 33 years. And you would have had neighbors and friends and villagers and a whole heap of confusion going on to say, look, this person's constitutional right was violated because they died without pensions. The other thing too is that persons' properties and so on were up for sale, I am told. And I don't think people would tell lie upon their own self to say, listen, my property was up for sale and it is because I was unable to pay on a regular basis and so on. So persons' constitutional rights, right to pension, right to property deprivation, that particular right that says my property I should not be deprived of my property, and that is in violation of their constitutional right. So the dismissal of teachers and nurses and police and other workers resulted in the loss of their pension rights where they were supposed to have pensions. And this amounted to uncompensated property deprivation under the Constitution. It's basically me just say. Less intrusive measures could have been used, as what the judge was saying, making the mandate disproportionate. So there is still, as far as I know, a piece of legislation that talks about the whole issue of you must take the vaccine. It amounts to that. Although it may not say, thou shalt take the vaccine, otherwise whatever, it amounts to that. All right, so you're saying, Mr. Sarge, that you are agreeing with you about individuals should have had the right to choose or to think outside the box concerning their own health choice. No government has the right to make the decision for individuals. That is their God-given right. That is true. And that is absolutely true. So no government has a right to make the choice for individuals. Now in the United Kingdom, we know how things were there. Here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you would have had one or two churches who stood up against this mandate and said, listen, X, Y, Z, you can't mess with my choice. And my choice is that I don't want this injection for whatever reason. That's my choice. And they were granted exemptions. But the church to which I belong, many of our workers many of our members who worked within other organizations and so on, were dismissed. They were dismissed. The outcome, the dissenting view, was that the High Court ruling should have been upheld and the dismissal should have been declared unconstitutional. And I agree with that. I agree with that. The conclusion is that the majority of the Court of Appeal upheld the vaccine mandate and dismissals, ruling that public health measures justified the employment consequences. then somebody may ask, what public health measures? Was there really an epidemic or pandemic in St. Vincent and the Grenadines at that time? The dissenting judge argued that the dismissals violated fundamental rights and lacked procedural fairness. You remember Justice Escrow Henry's ruling that was overturned, that was appealed against, so to speak. These were some of the things that she was arguing about, and I agreed with her. The case sets a precedent on the legality of COVID-19 vaccine mandates and their impact on employment and our constitutional rights in St. Vincent and Grenadines. It is like saying basically that the floodgates have been opened. The doorway to my constitutional right and your constitutional right to be trampled upon is open. We have got to watch that. Because we, the National Liberation Movement, is a movement that says the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we agree with this, that the Constitution of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the Constitution, and it is the supreme law of the land. And if you violate the supreme law of the land, there's something wrong with you. Something seriously wrong. And of course, you could be brought to court for that, for whatever the violation is. And I'm going to mention this briefly. That is why the National Liberation Movement is so adamant in its bid to help us, this nation state, to help us to understand the claim where some people believe that they have a double, what do you call it? They are doubly qualified to lead this country. Listen, if you don't understand the Constitution, even at this basic level, this basic understanding, if you don't understand what the Constitution is saying, that you are disqualified to lead this country, Section 26(1)(a, but you turn around and reinterpret the same Constitution that you want to claim to understand, there's something wrong. So we don't want anyone who claim to have an understanding of the Constitution go and sit on our behalf in Parliament, pretending to understand the Constitution when they don't. We can't allow that. The Constitution itself gives us a broad outline and the specific outlines as to what it is that we are about as a people. So again, the National Liberation Movement is saying this to those who are seeking political office, that they would have to prove that they have the constitutional right to sit in Parliament if they still have 2 passports in their pockets. Whether they have it in a plastic bag or they have one on the right side, one on the left side, if the Constitution says something, and I know I digress a little bit here, the Constitution says something, we must stick to it. And this is what the dissenting judge is saying. That the case here with the COVID-19 vaccine, good day, welcome, Briggs, Alex. This is what the discussion is all about, that this particular case with the COVID-19 mandate, it sets a precedent on the legality of COVID-19 vaccine mandates and their impact on employment and our constitutional rights, all of our constitutional rights in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We must pay particular attention, because the issue is that if it happened one time, it can be repeated, because case law is of such that if a particular case is made and there's a decision that is made at this point, then you would have to go to a higher court in order to seek additional interpretation of the law and to seek justice. But this case, this COVID-19 vaccine mandate and the impact on employment and our constitutional rights in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the dissenting judges say the conclusion was that the case sets a precedent on that, the legality of the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. We had the COVID-19 pandemic, so-called, I have to say so-called, because now you're hearing all sorts of things within the media on either side of the globe. The COVID-19 outbreak was in December 2019. Reportedly, it started in Wuhan, China, and then it spread all over. And by the 11th of March 2020, the first case was confirmed in St. Vincent. The question is, how many persons in St. Vincent are vaccinated? From what I have gathered, it stated that, the information I've gathered stated that the number of COVID-19 vaccination doses administered per 100 people in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is rose to 71 as of October the 27th, 2023. So it tells me that there has been a gradual increase from 40, 60, right up to 71 persons. This is based on some information, credible source of information that I've had. And went on to say the total number of vaccination doses per 100 people, so that you have some persons getting more than one dose, that the total number of vaccination doses administered for every 100 person in the total population is 71. So 71 persons up to yesterday would have taken one or more doses. This is counted, well, they say what? This is counted as a single dose and may not equal the total number of people vaccinated depending on the specific dose regime. And again, they're trying to explain here that people receive multiple doses. But the idea is that the total number of vaccination doses per 100 in total it rose to 71. Yes, indeed, that the Constitution is indeed our gatekeeper. Thank you very much, Alex, for this. So, that's the issue that we're talking about. And this whole thing with politics. The politics of this matter. We say politics, meaning that is a set of activities that are associated. This is not partisan politics per se, but just politics generally. So we're wondering if politics is played with the vaccination. Is it? That's the question. So politics is a set of activities that are associated with making decisions in groups or other forms of power relations among individuals, such as the distribution of status or resources. So there was, in a true sense of the word, a measure of politics dealing with the distribution of that particular vaccine. And yes, politics is involved in practically everything. Politics, the general framework of what it is. And then we said that our national liberation movement is about governance. And that is where within our organization, within our movement, it is controlled and operated in such a way that we have mechanisms that are in place to hold our members accountable. And that we operate along the line of ethics and risk management and compliance. And there is a definite structure or administration that belongs to the whole idea, more than an idea, the operation of governance. So here's the thing. The question again is, will it matter for us in the upcoming general election? Will anyone remember how many teachers died? And if so, could the government of the day be held responsible for their deaths? Could they? That's a question that we must ask. Now, in addition to that, in January of this year, according to Minister Camilo Gonsalves, he said that there would be a 2.5 salary increase. That was mentioned. He was counting up to that point is something like 7% that was promised. And he measured out over the years how much, how many, yes, he said how much in terms of percentage salary increase was given. So up to the end of January 2025, mention was made of a 2.5 salary increase. Now, nobody's saying that he mustn't get salary increase, Reason with me. The current PM, which is his father, we agree because we voted them in office. Some people making big noise now say, oh, the father and the son. But we agree that both of them are in the current administration. So our current PM announced a couple hours ago, more than a couple hours, he announced a 3-month, 3% salary bonus to be paid from next month, November 2025. Hear what he said, and they quote him. Public sector workers in St. Vincent and the Grenadines will receive a 3% cost of living allowance. You call it COLA. For 3 months, like you're drinking cola now. Coca-Cola. Nice drink. Prime Minister announcing his independence address on Monday. He said a Christmas cola. The pardon is on this. Let us not forget that. Sweetening you up. A Christmas cola will also be paid to all public servants. I wonder why. Hey, you have to ask some questions, Were public servants in a way that they were treated badly? Were they tampered with? Were they cursed out recently? What is it? But public servants. No, I'm not against a raising salary. Everybody would like a little something, but you must question motive. That is what I am getting at. A Christmas cola will also be paid to all public servants. What about the nurses? Of course, the nurses are mentioned. Many of them still struggling to make ends meet. Those who were actually, they actually had to leave their jobs, forced to leave their jobs. Now they'll be given some money. Some of them lose their jobs, so they're not back there. But those are still suffering by reasoning. If you're not suffering, call me and tell me, I'm not suffering anymore. And then you have once again, teachers. Then you have who? Police officers and prison officers and non-established employees in the central government as a one-off payment tax-free of 3% of the person's salaries or wages for 3 months. You see this thing with transparency and accountability. We want to know where the money coming from, because any money that is spent by a government officer named politician, they are our employees and they should give us an account as to where that money coming from. 46 years of independence. Some people say, well, they can't celebrate independence. I am saying to us, we still have much to be thankful to God for. But I am speaking directly to this issue in light of what happened to these very categories of workers who were displaced, and many of them could not make ends meet. The category of workers, there are some persons within those categories who are still suffering. And we must wonder, why is it that in direct relation to those very category of workers, their counterparts are still floundering about, but those who are within this category of workers, what are we saying to them? Is this a situation of divide and rule or divide and conquer? We want to know. Politicians are our employees. Not the other way around. We don't work for them. they go anywhere and they get any money in the name of St. Vincent and Grenadines. That's our money. Our children, we and our children and grandchildren have to pay back loans like over $800 million that was quoted recently to Taiwan, Republic of China on Taiwan alone. We have to pay it back. So it's our money. Politicians come and go. But this is the issue. 3% salary bonus to be paid the next month, from the next month, which is November 2025. Why? What happened to the same category of workers? Public servants, nurses, teachers, police officers, prison officers, and non-established employees, if they were dismissed from their jobs, if they were forced from their jobs, forced out of their jobs as a result of not complying with the COVID-19 mandate, we are asking, what happened to them? Where are they now? Some people say that they had to go grade coconut, make all kind of thing. Me use grade coconut and make thing to sell to it. Some people say they had to burn coals. I was a child who was the product of that sort of living in Vermont. You had to be burn coals sometimes. You had to get dasheen and yam and potato and sell and so on. I went to girls' high school as a result of the farmers in this country, because my parents were part of the farming community. One of them is still alive. And part of the farming community is the farmers of this country who actually send people like me to school because a village raised a child. So I'm asking, how come there are only those workers who go and get 3% cost of living allowance? And what does that mean when it's a cost of living allowance? Tax-free. That is the question. Why now? Where the money coming from? From our taxpayers' pocket or from some special source? We need to know. From foreign direct investments or from loans, part of loans that was secured through additional negotiation with foreign states. These questions we're asking. From grants received annually from the Republic of China on Taiwan, because we have that in the news to say annually monies come to us from ROC. Accountability is or should be part and parcel of any administration that wants to lead a people who understand. We were sent to school, so we understand the basics in terms of, mommy send me to shop to buy a pound of sugar. When we come back home, we're supposed to give back out of $1 in those days. We're supposed to give back 60 cents or 80 cents or howsoever, whatever amount, or 20 cents, 80 cents, 20 cents. Like you go to shop these days, you buy a mall to $5, you break at $10, you got to give back the $5. You understand me? The point is, accountability. No longer can governments of the day go up on the screen and just stand up and say, or go up on the stage and, I am going to give you that. Otherwise, my people, brothers and sisters, we cannot continue to take these things as a drop in a bucket and decide, okay, we will accept this. We must know where the money coming from. $800 million we are indebted to Taiwan alone. I read an article from, what he named me now, the press secretary, Marshall, good friend. And he took his time to detail the indebtedness of this country at that time. That was a few years ago, I think it's 2023. It did in the newspapers. Brothers and sisters, we have got to look at these things. At the time we were indebted to Taiwan, I think, was for $99.9 million. And you're telling me within the space of how many years, we are now $800 million indebted. And we are also told that we are also indebted to other countries for more money, much more money than when you combine the whole thing. So, by the way, whatever happened to the great plans for small businesses in this country that were discussed with the Commonwealth Secretariat in 2010? When I started working at the High Commission in London in 2010, around the 15th of February. I can't remember the exact date, but you check the newspaper and you go tell me if I'm wrong. Around those years, you know, I still searching now, it's for the past 5th, it's going to be the 15th, yeah, 15 and 10 and 25. There was just talk. Sorry, there was just talk. Somebody called me this morning when we were talking. He said, buy Vinci, best lands in the region. All right, yes. That's another issue that we will have to tackle, because there's the issue with Canawan and the gentrification. There's a big word that says this, that when you have persons are coming back to the point with the small business, when you have you have some foreign direct investors and other organizations that come into your country and they buy out all the best lands, and then they run out all of our local people, push them aside, eventually get them off the entire island, and they take over the island. You heard recently where this guy was talking about he is going to propose a new governance structure for Canawan. We can't let that happen. You know why we can't let that happen, brothers and sisters? We have a lease ratification for Canawan. Something had to be wrong with the lease in the first place, where you had to go to cabinet, go to parliament to ratify a lease. And I'm going to be writing about that. So our best lands in Canawan belong to the Snag family, of which I am a part. I didn't even know I was a Snag descendant until some time ago. I was doing a research, and guess what? I turned up matching one of our oldest living oldest living Snag with 157 centimorgans. Some of you must do your DNA and you'll realize, boy, all of us on this island are related. So, but the point I'm making is that some of our best lands are being sold. We are gradually being maneuvered to part with our patrimony, you know. So yes, you say, why now, Mrs. Hodge? You say the current administration is trying to buy votes or people to vote for them. You know, I'm going to throw a big stone on you. I'm going to throw a big stone, Mrs. Hodge. Who said that they're trying to buy votes? You're making a statement, but we have to ask the question, is it true to say that people can be bought and sold, that their votes can be bought and sold? We don't know, Mrs. Hodge. You just put me in a hot water. You have to ask the question. And that is why they are doing what they are doing now, to get the attention of all Vincentians, so they will forget what has happened in the past years that they have been in power. Mrs. Hodge, that's a very powerful statement, but we have to ask the question, is it true to say that the current administration is trying to buy votes or buy people to vote for them? We have to ask that. We have to ask that question. So I'm going to swing back away, because coming back to the same issue here. In 2010, the Commonwealth Secretariat was part and parcel of a big set of stuff that we had here in St. Vincent and so on. It's 15 years ago. And they talk and so on. Boy, let me suck my teeth. Me never had judge it for suck these days. Small businesses, entrepreneurs, you know, they know how to make money in this country. No rocket science. Our people who are small business owners and entrepreneurs know how to make money. That is where our thing is driving at, you know. Our focus is to help our brothers and sisters make money, create more wealth, and we go find markets in the region and beyond for these products and services. Small business owners are independent thinkers. So here what we had. We had what is known as the Business Act. It was proposed. It's in the stage of a bill right now. Because me see anything across. No, look, I just read, but it's everything. You understand? So I may miss something. So if I miss it, call me and say, Doris, you miss it. And I will come back on this platform and we go organize and I will say, well, really and truly, I did miss it. But the Business Act, there was a Small Business Act that was mentioned there. And guess what? We never hear anything about it. 15 years, small business people in this country. Sweep them about, knock them about. We had what is known as a Business Excellence Award that I was privy to. I assisted in organizing the first Business Excellence Award through the High Commission in London. And that was one example where we could have developed stronger ties on the import-export band of food and other products, or the continuum of import-exports. We had people who sent up things like, and brought up things like pepper sauce. We had fish, ham. We also had smoked fish or something. We had chicken ham for sure. We had to write, we were advised to write so that when they come to the border, to tell them that, okay, these were stuff for gifts for people, because all the paperwork basically told us that, listen, we are still on this country, the list of countries which says that we can't export those products to the United Kingdom. Maybe tell me 25 years and we not come off on all this yet. We still live on the list. We retire and we still live on the list. You can't export certain things to the United Kingdom. Why? And we have one of my former students. Well, I used to teach at the school, at Girls High School when she was a student, at the head of the office for international trade. You have all them other guys who I worked with, rubbed shoulders with at trade office, local trade office, and so on. And the information that I was privy to is to see thousands of pounds of chicken coming inside here, chicken wing and all them sort of thing. We have no, small business development in St. Vincent is not on the front burner. That is the point I'm making. So we have this loose enabling kind of, I don't know if you want to say enabling arrangement, but we have some sort of arrangement for export of products, exporting from St. Vincent and so on. So you had things like nuts and wines and potato and plantain chips and cosmetics, lipstick, soap, cream, and other things, handbags, shoes, clothing that are Vincentian made. This is where some good money can be made. But we squeeze. And you know, me hear somebody say a long time, you could put a thing around a dog neck. They could kill a dog without actually putting anything around a dog neck. I ain't calling nobody no dog, but I'm just saying this is how small businesses and entrepreneurs are being treated in this country, because we talk big about the Small Business Act. And nothing has been done as far as I am aware. What is the result then of the Vinci Expo for all these years? Okay, this is how you say, small businesses don't give this government anything in their pockets. That must be the reason why they have not followed through with it. This is how you have to ask questions. When you make them statement, they will come as if, well, it will come as if, well, I mean, we have the evidence to show. So I'm going to ask you, is it true to say that small businesses don't give this government anything in their pockets? And is it true to say that must be the reason why they have not followed through with it? That is with the Small Business Act. I don't know. Somebody on this platform here had to write something or ask questions or call me after the program and say, it's true, because in 2011, 2012, 2013, 2016, 2018, 2020, 2021, this has happened to small business development. You have the Center for Enterprise Development. My cousin Felix was doing a fantastic job there. I think he retired now, and there are others who continue to do human service to Vincentians. You have, once again, so the Center for Enterprise Development. You have the Chamber of Commerce. You have Invest SVG. And I think there are probably one or two other private entities that assist with some measure of small business development. But we don't have the focus on small business development in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We did some work with Martha's Vineyard. We sent a few little pockets of things here and there. in the United Kingdom. Just a little thing here and there. But I'm asking, we have big expo now, Vinci Expo. Everything Vinci and all of that. After that, what? Recently, through one of the business initiatives, through some place they had the regional integration and diaspora unit. Somebody was saying that they organize some stuff, carry some stuff there when they do the show. They were not organized properly. And that's the thing. We have experts here. They are experts in things like they know how to advertise. You have advertising experts. Who else again you have? You have advertising and sales experts. We have people who could advertise and sell our products. But we don't have the enabling legislation to drive that whole impetus of the small business association, the small businesses in St. Vincent and the Grenadines to carry that through. And the question is, why? So why spend millions of dollars to have officers like Doris Charles and them who used to sit at the High Commission in London and talk that they are investment officers? And when you bring investment, I could talk about me. I brought 34 projects to the table. How many of them were accepted? Let them beat me upon that. 34. We spend quality hours sending information through Invest SVG. We spend quality hours doing all sorts of things. We were told that some of these folks would have been assessed in terms of due diligence, but we see what happens when proper due diligence is not done though. Yeah? We do all sorts of things. We say, okay, let's look at this and so on. Pure paperwork. That is what you call efficiency in government. That is unfair to us as a people, and that is the reason why I'm talking. I have to talk because I belong to St. Vincent and the Grenadines too. We have trade attaches. We have investment officers. Call them whatever it is you want to call them. We have officers within our missions who are designated to go seek investment opportunities for us. I did it. And when you bring investments, when you bring the opportunities, it's all kinds of things that are happening to say, oh, we're not ready yet. I was called to get things like cassava, to get a thing for cassava, a market for cassava. I was called to get a market for our root. I was called. And then what? Then what? You know? So, are we saying that this current administration has refused to enact legislation to enable the small businesses here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Is that another way of saying that the current administration don't care about small businesses in this country? Those are questions that we must ask. The Small Business Enabling Act is to become a realistic document. And the St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I am saying this. If you will find it in your heart to vote for Doris Charles in the constituency, to represent the constituency of South Leeward, and ultimately to become part of an administration where I become the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and Grenadines, small businesses will be at the forefront of driving the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I want to say this further. I am prepared, if I receive that nod from you, if I receive your support, I am prepared to give up a year salary, because they have all kind of things. You have your basic salary, you have salary for, no salary, you have allowances for telephone, allowances for house, allowances for all kind of things. I am prepared to give up my salary. I am prepared to give up, you heard me right, for a whole year in order to kickstart small businesses in this country. Remind me about that again, and I will tell you. I'm going to sleep on it, I'm going to wake up, brush my teeth, comb my hair, and I'll tell you the same thing. I, Doris, is prepared to give up my entire year's salary to kickstart small businesses, to support entrepreneurs, to get things going in terms of making sure that we produce for local consumption, of course, as well as to add value to our food products, some of our food products, and create a stable environment so that our small businesses, our entrepreneurs, those who I'm saying that we can actually create wealth, we can help them to create wealth to make sure that they enter the international market. Good evening, Michael, and welcome. So so that's what I'm saying. And anyway we take it, all money is secured in our name as a country. For St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it is ours. You know, all money. Once you say St. Vincent and the Grenadines get a loan, St. Vincent and the Grenadines get a grant, it's St. Vincent and the Grenadines' own. They don't belong to the ULP. It's our money. And the ULP should give an account as to how they use our money. We are their employers. Is we could vote them out of office or vote them in office. Transparency in borrowing, accountability, integrity in office, and all of these values are part of the proposal by us, the National Liberation Movement, that will make for the greater sense of purpose, a greater sense of accountability on all financial matters in this country. It's our money. Every red cent is our money. It's our money in circulation. And nothing wrong with debt, don't get me wrong. We have to borrow in order to invest. But then when we don't invest and we get our gains on that, we must also declare it. So nothing wrong with that, but we must have the capacity to pay back. The preliminary data indicates that total public debt, and I said it already and I say it again in the context of what I am seeing going on here. As of the 31st of March this year, it's total public debt, $3.271 billion. Yeah, you heard me right. $3.271 billion. Of that, $3.204 billion is in central government debt and $67.3 million in public corporation debt. So the total external debt stood at $2.343 billion, and the total domestic debt, $927.6 million. These are government figures. Check the records, they are government figures. Who will be paying for this increase in the amount of monies that the current administration is saying that you're going to get 3% tax-free? Where the money coming from? Yeah, you ask, you say, so what is this government doing with our monies? And so for the time being, you must vote NDP to get rid of the ULP. Well, Michael, I know that everybody will not vote for the NLM, that is the National Liberation Party, because you take me off of this thing, The New Democratic Party has as its leader somebody who has a dual passport, a dual citizenship, a dual allegiance, and has made it publicly known that he is doubly qualified, which tells me that he doesn't understand the very dictates of the Constitution that he is trying to uphold. And that person doesn't understand the dictates of his leadership role. So if you have somebody at the helm of a political movement or a political party who doesn't understand their role as leader, you tell me, Michael, how will we follow that person? But added to that, even before you answer that, there is something wrong with our system that supports him in his role, and we would have supported him wrongly so. there is something wrong with a government administration who could only talk and say, oh, he has a double allegiance and doesn't know what he's about. So there is something wrong with the entire construct of a country. And many of us, not me alone, many of us are saying, yes, we will collaborate with a particular administration, but no, we cannot uphold someone who doesn't understand his role as a leader of that particular incoming administration. You know, well, somebody say he knows, but he doesn't care. Now, I would have been the person sent by the National Liberation Movement to speak with the NDP in terms of our collaboration going forward. And it would be interesting to find out why they would say to the NLM that they don't want to collaborate. But that again is for another discussion. As I said, we will collaborate in the interest of national development. But we cannot support someone who don't understand their role as a leader of that collaborative movement. You know, when somebody say that they're corrupt, and then I will throw back the question, why do you say that? And do you have evidence that they are corrupt? You know. So we the people still want to know what is happening to things like the national insurance scheme and the pensioners' money. You know, we heard recently, all of a sudden, a hotel. We had the newspapers detailing how our pensioners' monies were being used without our pensioners' knowledge until it becomes public knowledge. We have the newspaper saying, referring to, they did a catalog of issues over the years where promises were made and those promises seem to have been fulfilled by our very own pension. And so we still want to know what really and truly is happening to the national insurance scheme and our pensioners' money. We want to know who is going to pay back for money that was wasted on geothermal energy. We have millions of dollars of taxpayers' monies that were used to actually fund or pay for geothermal energy explorations. And yes, you had certain conditions to say, it was detailed in the news to say, well, okay, if the project failed, this portion of money will not be paid back. But if it, you call it a name, if there was success in this area, then geothermal would eventually pay. But they were warned not to pitch in certain areas. There was a guy who spoke to me, a qualified gentleman from one of them universities. I got to be careful, in terms of that thing. We call it something with the drill, that you could touch a vein, bust a vein, and then something happened like an explosion. We talked about the Dominica experience. We heard from the Dominicans. They came here. It's on record. They say you got to take time before you could speed up. Now again, you're hearing that, oh, we're going to use some monies. Why is the source of the money? Every time you hear they're going to use money for this and that, it's our money. And we must ask questions. We must not just be gullible to say, oh, yeah, they're going to get whatever it is. Ask for an account of what it is that our monies would be used for. Because governments come and go. But know this, that once they borrow, we, your children, my children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren will have to pay back if we waste the monies that are given to us, if we waste the monies that were not given, that we borrow. The hotel buildings, the shelves that you could see all over the place, they're noticeable in the Barley area and others. Hoteliers' experience need a deeper probe when it comes to their due diligence on these would-be investors. We need to organize proper due diligence on these people. And the other thing is that we've got to change the law. We have to amend the law to reflect that when people come here, it's our land. It's our land. When they come, 999 years we could give them a lease for. But the land stays with us. Not theirs. We shouldn't be selling our land. Lease them. And then the land reverts to us. Now, compensation for workers who were dismissed unlawfully. You know, the completion of roads in South Leeward in the constituency that I was asked to represent. The reduction of our, well, let me go back there, the completion of roads in South Leeward. We talked the other day, all of a sudden, just a little piece of the road. For how many years now? They say it was supposed to finish whenever. You jump up and, yeah, we're going to finish the road. And our people seem to not get it. And I'm saying to us, it's far too long that we just sit down and you know, just take everything quiet. I was one of those persons too, you know. So I'm not too hard on people. That I say, okay, 5 years pass, things go improve. Okay. Another 5 years pass, things go improve. Okay. Another 5 years pass. How long should we continue like this and maintain this stance where we are suffering? And yet you see others who claim to be leaders, who claim to be the promoters of the good on behalf of the rest of us, their friends, their neighbors, 3 boats, 5 cars, and those of us who continue to pay, law-abiding citizens, you know, continue to pay nothing. You would tell me that you had a road in South Leeward. For how many years, you know, and people driving or people cussing bad word all thing. Me don't say, God, I no cuss bad word. Please, no cuss, you know, like cuss bad word thing, you know. You say no cuss bad word. Give them a little chance. 5 years pass, 6 years pass, a different what you call it, a different kind of road system they want to bring in. They say, okay, we're going to resheet this whole thing. 3-4 years ago, you start. A whole heap of money come to this country. A whole heap of money, if you check it. A whole heap of money come for roads. Where money there? Where is the money? Somebody said, Doris, you know, you could sit down home and eat a plate of food. No! I can't sit down home and eat a plate of food and turn my eye against the injustices. You know? Yes, we say, ask for a view of the checks and balances of the monies in the coffers. Of course, that is what we are asking for. Who got paid for a piece of a contract between Doris House and Mary House? Who got paid for that? We had the other day, they start, I was going through the area, they tell me you had some people from overseas who come in. You mean to tell me that we don't have people here who could do roads? You mean to tell me that we don't have people who could drive trucks and buses and vans? You mean to tell me that we don't have people who understand how to construct the road, that we will bring people from overseas? That you subcontract to certain agencies, certain organizations within the region. Not wrong with that too, you know. Don't get me wrong. I am not against our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, but I am saying that we somehow misuse the funds. That is what it looked like. Now, may the first person to put up my hand to say, I never saw a receipt, never. I never saw a contract, never. But it appears so to me, allegedly. Let me clarify that. Because somebody might say, okay, let me jail Shibika, you said that we misuse funds. You have to wonder, is it that there is a misuse of funds in these areas where the roads are not properly done? But just before an election, only a little piece is done. Why? Is it that somebody had said the other day is only the last thing that is done for Vincentians that we remember? The National Liberation Movement is about an inclusive government, inclusive governance. And everybody, village councils, town councils, householders, you name it, will have a chance to sit and deliberate in their particular communities as to what it is that they would want to see fix and the other things that they would want in their particular domain or particular constituency, and then feed that information to central government. That is how our government structure, our governance structure is set up. So that it's you, the people, that will say to us, this is what we need here in order for us to kickstart whatever. We had it in turn wrong back wrong, so we got to get it right. And so I go back to the reduction of our food bill from over $1 billion CIF. It hurting me to know that we're bringing in things like tomato. We're bringing in things like onion. I work with the farmers group down in Cane Grove. I was a young officer down in Cane Grove, and I see that onions could grow here. So don't tell me about onions can't grow here. Lettuce. I go supermarket myself, me hear somebody say that, oh, lettuce coming in, $14 a pound. Me say no, not true. Me go me see it myself. One day I was walking, I mentioned this recently, walking, going out to one of these areas. I like a little walking. When I go, if I didn't done buy the cucumber from the guy, and you know I just like to support small farmers and so on, I was going to leave it back. $5 for cucumber that come from where? Barbados. Brothers and sisters, it does hurt me. It does make me eye water. Me does ball. So me does ball plenty, and not me alone, you know, plenty people in this country. They are waking up to the realization that something is wrong. Something is wrong with the way in which we are running this country, and we need different leaders. And I put up my hand, I've offered myself, as I said. I will not be around for many years, but I can also train, teach, coach others in order for us to move forward. We can do better as a nation. And I'm saying there will be an increase in taxes. You see that 3 months money, tax-free? There will be an increase in some kind of thing, even if not officially or formally, there will be an increase. There will be an increase in food prices, increase in water rates and electricity rates. Will you and I should say, be worse off after these increases in terms of our take-home pay? You see the news recently? Young people in South Leeward are going to ask a question of you, please. You are encouraged to get your ID cards. You are encouraged to register to vote. Vote for Doris Charles. Get your name on the voters' registration list and vote to make a decided difference in this country. Somebody, anybody, if you're hearing me, help our young people to get registered to vote, because 20-something% of the voters in this country are young people, but about 60 to 63% of voters in this country are also the older folks. The older folks wouldn't quite get it sometimes when we talk about digital transformation. They won't get it when we talk about remote control. Some of them wouldn't get to talk about remote control of this and that and so on. And I am saying to us, those young people who are supposed to vote for change, they are only some of them are talking. Somebody called me a while ago and was telling me that those folks, yeah, they say, yeah, man. That is song good. Yeah, Miss Charles, song good. Yeah. And they are not registered. And I am saying to us, young people, get registered. Get registered. Good afternoon, cousin Carlita. Good afternoon. Get registered so that you could help with the digital transformation of this country, because you are the ones who we send overseas, you know. And sometimes we send you overseas, but get what happens? You're bright, so you do, and you are able to check out certain things and realize, wait a minute, this thing working? Okay, then I will build a system off of that. So God giving your innate ability to function effectively at that level. You're going to help your grandmother. You're going to help your neighbor. That's why we go organize village councils, so that you sit and you will be compensated. And that is what we are all about. We are fighting for the heart and soul of this nation because that is at stake. Nobody should be able to buy a vote. Doris ain't buying a vote, I'm just pointing you towards a collective sense, a collective consciousness on our part, where this is our country. I'm going to say it again. I will give up a whole year's salary once I'm elected as the Prime Minister of this country, a whole year's salary. Remember telling you, you had different things, this, that, and the other. Whole year's salary. I will give that up to kickstart this economy, to push that into the development of our young people. And yes, you're going to have one or two older ones who will benefit from that as well. And I will encourage other ministers of government, if they can't give up a whole year's salary, you give up half. But for me, I give up a whole year's salary. You know, I live on £50 already. 50 pounds every month. I live on less than that too. I know what it is to sacrifice. Me getting involved in politics, you know, the highest I've ever reached in the academics, you know, the paperwork there. Here's the point I am making. This is not about aggrandizement and want to this and that. My heart is in the right place. And by God's grace and His mercy, let us walk this thing properly. Too much waste, too much destruction, too many promises that are made that we're not delivering, and they seem to be like a blinkers on your eye to say, "Oh, jump up and down, jump up and down." Nothing wrong with jumping up and down. Me love me jump up and down. But we must not do that in exclusion of what it is that we are about. We are a nation that can have a better approach towards ourselves as well as to others. We can make money in this country. We can go back to our farming communities and make more money, and that would contribute to a better way of life for all of us. No one should be sold out for cash anywhere. The heart and soul of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is at stake in this upcoming general elections. Persons in the diaspora, I am asking of you to encourage our people to vote wisely. Vote for the National Liberation Movement of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Our symbol is the bicycle. Put your X or a mark next to the bicycle. Our color is orange. You would see me in it sometimes, not all the times, because these issues that I am talking about are so critical that I don't want any distraction to say, well, oh, she wearing this color and she only talking about these matters. No. So what are our basic survival needs? The narrative tells us is food, water, clothing, sleep, and shelter. They are the bare necessities. And for many people in St. Vincent and Grenadines, for many of us, we have some lovely houses. The architecture is good in many places, but we can do better. The people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, my people, my brothers and sisters, I am talking to us. Our food, our farmers are the backbone of the producers of our food. Our farmers, and they are the backbone of this country. We have a decline in the agriculture sector for over the last 25 years. Remember that. Food prices gone sky high. Big money, still can't buy. Production low. Time getting hard for so. Let's join together and take this nation forward. You tell me 3 potatoes, by the time you boil one of the potato and then it come all the way down, so and then after you really can't get 2 slices from it because one section of the potato was too young. Me no about sweet potatoes, $5 in a bag. Why? Because they're scarce. You see, dig potatoes. I didn't like it, you know. I always say that. I didn't like mommy and then carry me a mountain. Me no me want go mountain. When we go mountain, and me learn how to plant sweet potatoes. Me have some sweet potatoes in the backyard. Them not ready for it yet. Then you have things like you want fish and this sort of thing. How much a pound for fish now? The other day fish car came up on the hill. And I think it's $10 a pound. Then another time again, man come up. It was, I think, $11 or $12 a pound. Times hard. I ain't beating up on anybody for that, but we need more people back into fisheries and agriculture. You're telling me that the import to export ratio is 14:1? Eh? We import 14 times more than we export. You tell me that staple foods in this country, we import up to 73.5% of the food staples that we eat. There's a major decline in our exports. No markets for homegrown food. Huh? And the foods to which we add value. A significant reduction in the lands available on which we grow food. Less than 7,000 acres of land. That's the last set of statistics I'm picking up. Farmers and many others are now on poor relief. Poor relief. The other day I heard my very good friend, Mr. I don't make enemies, but there are some people who will make me their enemies. So that's why I say, everybody my friend. I already mentioned some statistics about how many more people that are on the poor relief list. And I will say this, I was a young officer in the ministry. I was taken to Arnesville when this current administration first took office. Among many of us, we were able to go through the poor relief list. I remember, and other lists. I remember at that time, one big halalalala, oh, the poor relief list is so huge. And by the time we done chop off people off a poor relief list, we saw people who did tell quite a bit of lies and dodge the system. They walk the system. And a number of them names being on the list and they were not supposed to be there. And said, people who did dead, you have to people used to go and stand up and collect the money and all kind of things. So the system, you had some loopholes in there. Boy, I was so glad because I said, okay, we clean up the list. But guess what happened? We have become poorer. We have become poorer over the past 25 years. You know why? Because the poor relief list is larger. Don't let anybody tell you anything else. We have become a nation where poor relief, and people don't really like the idea of really always getting money. They take it because, people want to be taught how to fish. They want to be taught a skill. But some people decide, boy, me I go take it because nothing else to do. And what is happening is that we are creating the need. When I say we, I will say this. The administration of the day is creating a need. You create the situation and say, well, yeah, we got to give them something. We got to give them something. You know why they're creating a need? Look at the statistics. $1 billion worth of food is imported in this country. CIF, that is cost of insurance and freight. That is my issue. You hurt me, oh, how long in my backbone you hurt me? 25 years. There are plenty of markets for food. We are just looking in the wrong market. We are trying to sell abroad before we can sell in our yard. That is also true. We also can add value to our foods. So you say, thank you, sister, for offering your service. We truly need of a new leader who will train other leaders, not like this administration that have been in office for 24 years and none of their team have the training that they should have. Miss Ajay just put me in some hot water. You don't know if they're just train people in cabinet or send them across the to other administrations for them to look at best practices. Those are some of the things we also have to look at, But yeah, but the issue is this. I can still say happy independence because there are a little bit of green shoots of hope. Little bit, But in the main, you're telling me there's a major decline in our exports, no markets for our homegrown foods. Less than 7,000 acres of land is available. I don't want to go beyond an hour and a half at all, because I am making a point here that we should not miss. And the point is that this administration, with its policies that are not pro-farming, has created the need, has created poverty of what $1 billion and more, CIF, according to the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank figures, and turnaround, and the number of our farmers are now on the breadline, or less than the breadline, because they're receiving a little something in their hand when they should have been helped. And that, of course, will, this whole idea of going back to the farmlands, sweat out a little bit, and so on and so on. It helps them in their own overall health. And we will touch on the health system one of these days. And so when it comes to food, those who are laboring hard in the sun to feed us on small plots of land, can we be happy to, they can't be happy to accept free money? And can we be happy to accept? Well, some people would be happy to accept it, but it's going to be difficult for me to see that trade-off. $1 billion worth of food that we are importing, but we just raised or promised from November of this year, we're going to give 3%, and we increase everybody around that. What are you doing? You're splitting the Ralph Gonsalves. What are you doing? You're mashing up St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Why? What happened to the farming community? That is the point I am asking. And you expect that people like us, sensible people like us, would vote for you? No, Dr. Ralph Gonsalves. It can't happen like that. That's not proper planning. Our farming community is being hurt. And I want to say this finally. The National Liberation Movement-led administration will see to it that our basic needs are supplied and that we begin to teach again. Some persons know it already. We will teach them again how to provide for themselves, how to make money for themselves, how to prepare to export and do export, how to take hold of opportunities now created through the seaports and the airports that we now have. We have to teach our farmers how to rise to the occasion, to take hold of those opportunities that will come. Because opportunities will come. Opportunities will come. We have 40% of the potable water from Dalloway up in the South Leeward constituency. We need additional reinforcement for security around those water catchment areas, not just in, because you hear the talk. So we need additional security, safety for our nation. Clothes from things like the marijuana plant, from the banana tree trunk, from manufacturing of our clothes, generally speaking. The National Liberation Movement will seek to develop those sectors. Sleep or shelter, or housing, hurricane-proof shelters, amended building codes that would not be limited to considerations for the disabled and the elderly and the underprivileged in this country. Brothers and sisters, yes, Mrs. Hodge, you say we should be selling to other Caribbean islands before looking at America, Europe, and other places. Yes, that is definitely the route that we will be going. With the CSME, that is the Caribbean Single Market and Economy, we can capitalize more on some of the initiatives and some of the pathways that have been, well, not mandated, but have been outlined within those areas. All right, so I want to thank us very much for our viewing audience today. There are others who will view us when we are long gone, but this is my service to my country. And I love St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I've lived a number of other places, but this land will always be home. I am sure that you can identify with me when it comes to our land, so beautiful. Again, happy independence, and may the grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit rest and abide with us now and forevermore. Amen. Have a pleasant day.